evening and welcome to the fourth episode of Voices, a year-long archival art initiative curated by Serendip Art and the Hashtag Collective, of which I am a founder member. Voices is a still evolving idea between us, Ravi, Namrata, Saira, Biju, Abin, and myself, about how to create or at least contribute towards a sustainable arts environment. The arts have suffered deeply in the pandemic, and there is real danger of the artistic voice becoming scattered. The pandemic showed us that we need an arts environment that supports individual creativity, yes, and also convergence when appropriate, and cooperation at other times. Voices, we believe, is an important South Indian-based platform to sustain artistic happenings of the creative present. Talking of this past, present, future matrix, don't you constantly hear people asking, when can we go back to the past normal? But a more important question is whether we want to go back to a past normal or incorporate learnings from the present into a future normal, such as how it's so much better for the environment when we cut out unnecessary travel and reduce our carbon footprint. How a slower, deeper, more nuanced approach to creativity and consumption is one that will sustain our communities, both in the places where we make art and the places that receive our art. Or how a better work-life balance is possible when home becomes a part of the work environment. Our hope, by curating a series such as this, is to invite artists to share their creative journeys and thoughts within sustainable context set by the arts writers. To briefly introduce ourselves, Bangalore-based Ravi Kavle is a former industrialist, art collector, and gallerist. Ravi set up Serendip Art as a gallery by appointment to showcase contemporary artworks. He is deeply interested in supporting the larger environment in which the arts are created in India. He has sponsored the Ananya Drishya program and is a curator with the Alliance Française de Bangalore for the Young Talents program. The other partner in the curation of Voices is the Hashtag Collective, which was formed by Biju Kuriakose, Abin Chaudhary, Saira Biju, and myself. We have strong individual practices as artists and architects, but come together to explore multidisciplinary artwork, site-specific installations, and initiatives such as Voices to create greater engagements for the public with art and the issues of our times. Before I ask Ravi to introduce tonight's wonderful speakers, a quick word about meeting hygiene. We would be delighted if you would post your questions and whom they're directed to in the Zoom chat box or YouTube platforms, or you can, of course, message me. After the main session, Arun and Leena will try and answer as many questions as they can. So now over to you, Ravi.
Hello and good evening, everyone. We are really happy to be back again. This is our fourth episode, and we're so proud to be presenting Leena again with Arun Kumar, who is very well-established contemporary artist, and Arun has been he's been a very sensitive artist, and his carefully considered use of material, which includes a lot of industrial waste, provides a relevant comment on current environmental concerns. He comes from a farming family in the Western Ghats of Karnataka, but is kind of settled down in Gurgaon, and where he has a studio, and he holds a degree, 2 degrees, the bachelor's and the master's from the MS University, Baroda. And he was in the toy industry at the beginning of his career. Because of his experiences with contrasting environs from the Western Ghats to a city like Delhi and Gurgaon, so that has affected his work over the years. and it led him to realize and address certain ecological issues through his art. His carefully considered use of material, uh, in terms of recycling and rework of industrial waste, particularly wood from scrap yards, provides a relevant comment. And, so you will see his work and see, for yourselves. Lena is appearing for the second time on Voices. She's an independent art historian and curator with 2 decades of involvement in the arts management, the art scene, curating solo and group shows and multidisciplinary projects. She is committed to socially engaged practices that reflect in the multidisciplinary projects she has developed and participated in. Focus areas of her research include arts education, printmaking, history and practice, the documentation of living traditions, and environmental consciousness in the arts. Lena has curated numerous exhibitions with galleries across India. She currently resides in Goa. So with these few words, I would like the artist and the curator to take off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for that wonderful introduction. And to begin right away, I would like to say thank you for allowing me to be on this platform again. I almost feel like I'm part of the Voices family. And that's what Voices is doing. It's creating this wonderful family feeling between all of us. So I also thank #Collective and everybody who is here today. And mostly I'd like to thank Arun. It's been a wonderful time actually having conversations with you in the past. And I'm so happy to be here today in conversation with you for Voices. So to really jump into the conversation right away, Arun, I think that something that we have spoken about is this, these undefined spaces is what the talk is named. And so we have discussed in the past these sort of shifts that have taken place in your practice. And even though you were extremely established in a studio practice, at some point of time, you made a shift towards more socially and environmentally oriented work. Can you talk a little bit about at what point this happened or what triggered this sort of movement in your practice?
Yeah, thank you, Ravi, and the #Collectives and Lena for this wonderful conversation. And I also thank the people who are tuned in. Yes, Lena, we had many discussions about my practice, and the shift was taking place over the time. It was not all of a sudden, and there was a preparation for it. As a beginner, in initial years, I had been doing things which was very attractive for me as an artist, and then at the same time, I had this feeling, because I the roots that I have come from and the connection that I have. That was basically the ecologically rich area, that is Western Ghats, and within that the farming household connection. So right from the childhood I had been seeing the challenges of the farmers staying alive as or surviving as farmers. So that was at the back of my mind all the time. So, but there was a question, there was a challenge for me as a trained artist, how to address this with my limited artistic experience and skills. So it was taking time. So while I was, doing many other things, living in a metro, and the metro, how it offers, very contrast things to the life in a environmentally cohesive. So, and at the same time, I was also working in an industry as a toy designer to support my art. So there was a preparation for all this, and then I had been exploring various industrial materials and new materials and all that. But there was no satisfaction. And then I somehow, while doing all these kind of works, I had a question back in my mind that, how do I connect with my roots? How do I tell my people that what I'm doing, and how, whether it is really, the art that I have been practicing was really connecting to that segment, that audience. So that was the issue that was back in my mind. So, there were some works that were happening when there were some shows in that context of environment and all that, though it was all very less at that point of time. So in 2005, there was, World Economic Forum that was happening at Porto Alegre, Brazil. And late Tushar Jog was curating and asking me to make some work for that. The title of that forum was Hunger. So I thought, let me, make a work, which is, I will just share my screen. And so this was the work. I hope everyone can see this.
Yes.
Yeah. So this work was on a dining table, and then I thought dining table space was very interesting for me to sort of bring the issues literally onto the dining table space, where the food production and the commodification of food, where it lands up at the last time. So that was the dining table at a metro or any other places. So that was what I thought. And then I thought of mixing it with, literally the dining table atmosphere. But as a tablecloth, I had some images over there. And then on this crockery, I had the transfers, which were, though they were all quite direct in that sense, but it was going well with the theme, hunger. So there were more tables coming into the, art practice. And this was basically called What's in the Belly. And there was something in this table to explore. So that was the whole idea. So moving on to my show, this could be the turning point for me in 2010. The show was called just the Tract, and the title of this work is called Bhujanalai. So this show totally was exploring my skills and my questions regarding farming and related issues, agrarian issues. So this was how this work was made, directly testing my skills, and also experience many other things along with it. And at the same show, there was one more work called Bhumi Ki Khurak or Bukha. So in this work, you can see this is not actually on the table, but it's on the floor, like how other, like maybe the other segment, which still uses the floor to, consume food. But this was all about, the strange names in the industry, farming industry or agricultural, industrial farming, I must say. So when I was looking through these names, very difficult for me to understand. I had to really study, the composition of these chemicals and effects on the ecology and human body and so on. It's a world in itself. So this was basically the turning point. I must say that was 2010.
And
Doing these works, basically, they were basically telling me to get out of my studio space and explore the ground reality or ground situation. So
Right.
yeah, I'll just
That's quite a turning point, and I think that it became very research oriented also, something where you were deeply engaging with the material that ultimately became artworks or some sort of engagements in the gallery space. Now, to sort of move back again to this mention of the toy industry that has come up already a couple of times. Your work prior to this period also was extremely experimental, both in the materials you were using, which were sort of influenced by popular culture, let's say, and also in the spaces and the way you engaged with audiences. So I'd really like to ask you a little bit about that part of your artistic practice, about, let's say, the inflatables and the use of toys also in your artworks.
sure. Uh, yeah, so this was an interesting point in my practice. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. So this was done in '99, and I was already working in toy industry, and I was really having that freedom of what I wanted to do, since I didn't have to really depend upon art to support me, and so I was working with various kind of materials and things, and also I was in toy industry, and that playful elements were quite natural in that time. So and also just another question used to come, strange questions like why these objects needs to be so heavy and traditional materials and things like that. So the whole point was to also to to address the question of storing movements and all those, and also and to be very participative or interactive. That was the whole point in doing these kind of works. So and I was really having fun, and also of course they're all very industrial materials and new materials. Till in '99 it was all quite new for me. So and also exploring various aspects of the art, that to break that barrier also, to be not in the same norms. So this is all you can see. And then also while using while working in an industry, I could see I had, I mean, maybe I was fortunate to see that world, working in an industry or having an access to industrial area, and getting to see the kind of resources that are used, and also kind of wastage that used to take place, as rejects and that and this. These ones are actually from rejects where I was working. So you can read the titles there. So and moving on, again using the playful elements of in the art making. This is a kind of
Yeah.
industrial force and like machines. So this is another work from 2006, show called Feed. I mean, all these works were also simultaneously addressing some issues of this, um, surrounding agrarian world, I must say, and also the other uh, side, the metros, which is the power center and constantly feeding the some kind of information uh, to the other end. So, and again, here also I have started already using waste, the consumer waste, plastic and things in my work already. So, and other aspects of commodification of food and all that. So here again, another work. I'm just showing these because the the element of playfulness and toys and all that. Again, here you can see the dining table coming again. This is called Earth Above Our Feet. This is talking about resources made out of sugar. Uh, and also photo documentation of everyday objects and food and all that. So, yeah.
Yes, I think very much a sort of social commentary was very prominent in your work, whatever material you were choosing to use. And I think this brings me to the point of that sustainability angle in the kinds of materials that you chose to work with later, in terms of repurposed material, material from scrap yards. I remember the one point when we were at the same residency, what amazing stuff you managed to collect from the scrapyard to make a work. So, I'd really like to ask you next to talk a little bit about works that have been developed with this process of, discarded and repurposed material, and and how you go about it. What is your process?
See, so far, I had also done, as I said earlier, I was working new, materials and various industrial materials. I mean, just fresh materials.
Yeah.
So I was using in my work, and then I felt, that is all fine. But when I was coming across a lot of waste while working in industry and things, and then I felt that this material itself is saying so much. I didn't have to really buy a new, or I must say that I didn't have to use fresh material or fresh resource, I must say. So that was the idea. And then while when I was having this concern about this resources, and balance in using the resources, natural resources or whatever. So I was very conscious about that part. So you will see some of those works here. Um, so this one was not really from the collected from the industrial scrapyard or something. This is basically collected from the society where I was living.
Right.
And that was one point. I didn't know what to do with this, and this is the kind of household consumables and the waste. For even 100 or 200 ml water, we used to, still, I think people are quite conscious now. At that point of time, even for 100, 200 ml of water, creating a permanent junk, that was really, I was not able to understand and didn't know how to deal with it. So this work was collected, actually made from the bottle tops that I had collected from my own society where I was living for, let's say, 6 months. This is 100,000, bottle tops. And this is another one, very recently in Gurgaon, there was one organization, that had invited some of us artists to create awareness. This is just a part of awareness, I must say. This is for inviting school children to and everyone to experience the waste that we produce. Yeah, this is from the last slide, and this is what you're talking about. I collect this wood. So still, in Gurgaon, on the one hand, when we go to our the forest and things and see where the forest is gone, the forest has actually gone to ship industrial goods from one place to another. So if you go to scrapyards in Gurgaon and around, and you will see huge amount of wood, really huge amount of wood that has been used for shipping things. So there you find, all the forest is really here. So I mean, this is a material that you feel like using it because it's there, and you need to bring that aspect. And also through this material, you could really talk what you want to say. So this is another work. This is also kind of material that I come across on the way while a tree is chopped off, and then I just bring that into my studios and then keep it and giving shape. This work, you may think, it is made of one large wood piece. No, this is actually made out of maybe several thousand pieces of wood collected from a scrapyard. I don't waste materials, since you get so much of material already. Then you don't need to go for a fresh resource or a fresh material. That was what inspiring. That was inspiring me. And on the other hand, that material itself says what it has to say. So this is another work. So you will see that pieces of wood put together. This is also the made from the same industrial scrap wood, and it was just burnt. So this was a few things that I would like to talk about on these materials.
Yeah. That's I mean, that whole process and practice is really so interesting and inspiring. There's one thought that always comes up, when you said shipping. I'm just thinking about this, the industry, the art industry itself, and the number of biennales and fairs and large scale art events that happen all across the world, where artwork is shipped in large numbers. And of course, I think artists are also should be aware about the kind of carbon footprints that are coming through with that. What are your comments, though? As in, it is nice for artists to be able to participate in different parts of the world, but is there any way to balance that part of it?
Yes, this is really a very tough questions. At the on the one hand, you would like to take those positions of participating and showing your works, and also talk about the same issues maybe.
Yes.
And still use, but I don't know. I'm sure all other artists are also very conscious now, and then they have different strategies of conveying the same message without using so much of resources. And in my case, I always think when I work, I strategize how to minimize those aspects of packing or shipping. At some point, I made a work, just printed images on gamchas and textiles, and took them to. It was just coming like one small bag, a small bag which I could carry. So there about 15 to 20 gamchas. So that was good enough. I just hanged them. So I mean, these kind of strategies could work with minimizing these aspects of the heavy
Packaging.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm sure
It's
are coming down.
it's a kind of consciousness that has to come. Yeah, it's quite a challenge, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but I think that during the pandemic period, because of the curtailing of movement, because no one could organize any large events, I think that quite a bit of it has reduced.
Yeah.
But and I think that it's a good time to rethink then these strategies here onwards. But how was it for you? Already sort of living in between these two spaces, which is the rural and the urban. How was the pandemic experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, see, now we don't have to really talk about it in the sense that everybody has experienced, none has spared. So their travel movements were restricted, and everything was restricted except food was available. And but the time was such that it was very unsettling and very what to say. Um, I mean, I don't think I had a good sleep in those times. I mean, just to say that it was very disturbing time. And of course, my other work, I quite oftenly visit, my other work that was based on, my hometown. So there the travel was restricted, but I was operating from here. And though the work was happening there, and a lot of workshops were, you know, organized, but they had to cancel at that moment of time. So this was really a tough time to for the future of for the future course. What to do, how to um, manage this and things like that. But at the same time, as everyone knows that now there was a pause time to rethink and reassess the way we used to um, consume, without much of a balance, consume the resources, I must say. So that, I mean, I don't know now, in that past time, whatever we have learned, it must, that learning must go on. And yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree there with you. Now, sort of going back again to your engagement with agrarian cultures, with this relationship between agricultural work and the environment, and sort of this revisiting your own engagement with your roots. So, in that context, also you produced several projects before leading up to the Sara Center, which you're running now. So, can you speak a little bit about these projects that were leading up to your larger step?
Uh, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Uh, See, as I said earlier, it was all the preparation was going on, for my own future course, in the sense whether when I work on environmentally conscious works, whether to stay in a metro and keep working in a studio space, or you actually need to go to the uh, you know uh, ground level and assess what exactly is happening there, and take that first hand information, and see what comes through. So that was the whole point. That was happening 2010 onwards. My show that was happened in Delhi at Nature Mode, and then after that I was really thinking about my future thing, because that was really tough in working in the metros. So that is where I seriously thought of moving to my hometown, or must say the family farm, and practice thing. At the same time, there were some projects like Mumbai Art Room had called me for doing an project that was called Seed of Reckoning. And I worked here basically with seeds and leaves, it was also my own exploration of biodiversity that was there, or the missing biodiversity, and the food culture, the agriculture. So, that was this project that you can see the details. And at the same time, some other exhibitions at KNMA Noida and somewhere else. So that was again a chance for me to sort of, assess or study this migration, why the migration is happening. When I was already there working. I had started working in my small place, village, and see that there was one way kind of migration that was happening. So, and while I was here in Gurgaon, I used to go to places where I could see the migrant laborers, looking for job. And so these were all basically a kind of, the signs that I was trying to work on. And then later I started a series called, The Vulnerable Guardians. Basically, I used to go around and take, portraits of farmers working in the farm. So that was really giving me, kind of a direction. By that time, I had already understood that how, what are these the guardians are. These guardians are actually the guardians of the ecology and environment. So that was my point. So that was a kind of some work that I'm showing here that could contextualize what I was thinking during that time.
Yes, and then ultimately, of course, it led you to start work with the center, the Sara Center, which you are running right now. And over the past few years, I think you have spent quite a lot of time and energy and income, I'm sure, on that project. And that's, of course, this most interesting space that I'd like you to speak about now. Also, considering that this was like perhaps the largest risk for an artist to take, to sort of really announce very publicly that this move has happened. And, a large part of your time is also taken up by that. So please tell us about that, Arun, the center and how it came about and what it's doing right now.
Okay. See, can you see the
slides are not visible right now.
Not visible? Okay. But you can see the screen, is it?
Yes, the screen is there, but not the slides.
Just a minute. I think I made a small mistake, I think. Yes, it's there, right?
Yeah, here it is.
Okay. Yeah, so is this full screen or it's
not full screen?
Okay, I can't. Anyways, I have to go like this.
I think this is fine. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Okay. See, I was talking to you about how my shift was taking place over the time, and then how I finally made up my mind to sort of move away from my studio practice and spending more time on the farm and things. So this is what basically, the you can see that red dot there. That is the Western Ghats part, and that's the location of this, where my family is and where the center is. While spending time on the field, there were a lot of things that I can't tell you all that. And basically what I felt was that, you need a kind of infrastructure, maybe a small one or whatever. So, sometimes you can call it like a landing space to have people coming over and have discussions. Maybe I can call it like a platform for sharing ideas. So, and basically my idea was to, while my time was spent there, whatever I have learned there, I thought of sharing it with others. So especially the school children and teachers and all other stakeholders. So this is how the SARA has come up with many thoughts actually. Having a space in a place like that means, it's a lot. It's just a door for everything, every opportunity. So in the sense, opportunity for knowledge and sharing. That was the thing. So this is, some space that I'm showing, how people gather and what happens. So the idea was basically, I took about 4 years to come up with this idea after 2010. 2014, I finally I had to register this thing called Sustainable Alternatives for Rural Accord. So, and that was shaping up over the time and what I should do. That time, as you just said, the risk and things like that. So, I mean, here in this space, there was no such, already there was no such thing called, art infrastructure. And I had to really, sort of bring it on, onto the surface there. I mean, of course, there was a lot of other things were there, craft and other things, whatever condition, they were all there. But to bring my artistic experience, that was basically what I had learned living in the metro and mostly catering to the galleries and museums and things, was not really going to help me there. So I had to really strategize a new way of using my artistic skills. So that was a challenge. That was the risk. Stay away from the mainstream art practice for long, and not really doing frequent solos and things like that. So, but this was my focus. This was like an art. I thought this way. Let's say I make an installation. In that installation also needs information, that needs various materials and strategies and various skills, and also a lot of money. So I thought of doing this in a similar manner. It's like, maybe you can call it social sculpture or social practice or whatever. But using that, artistic experience, that artistic experience may not, be seen directly, but as you can see the whole thing over the time, maybe you will see what are those elements are coming into, meeting various, the community stakeholders like school children and teachers and school betterment committees, and having workshops for school children, and bringing elders into the workshop area, to having them interact with the younger generation, and also making the younger generation asking questions to elder, what the kind of situation, environmental situation that was in today, and all that. So, and then coming to another major milestone in this, what SARA was meant for me was bringing basically, or going into the public or community and gain that confidence. That was the trick. So you can see how we had been using artistic elements in this. There are smaller artistic elements for a larger work, must say. We thought of, what we are doing, it's, in SARA, it is actually many people working together, basically inviting theater activists and artists, writers, environmental activists. So it is that basically, I'm just creating an atmosphere, a platform. So people are coming together and to take such programs like Western Ghats Eco Walk was a huge success in 2017 and 18, but this could not have done by one person or a small number of people. We had people working and months of work in the background. As you can see, you can read kind of the length and the width of the walk. So here, bringing in we thought of bringing artistic elements, that was actually asking artist friends to provide environmentally related posters, art posters. So like over 300 posters were collected by about 150 artists. So we reached out to thousands and thousands of children and people. You can see in the visuals here. And many young artists were joined in these 2-year walk. And they themselves came in without any support. They came in and took part of this and did many graffitis, very quick graffitis. We were on the move, actually. So it was all really fun, and also moving exhibitions. So in the first walk, that was in 2017, we had gained a lot of experience. And then in 2018, we thought of involving the children for this walk. We wanted them to sort of lead this walk. So there were about 10 to 12 youngsters coming forward to take this and lead this walk. So we had collapsible exhibition structures, and also the children themselves, they had of course with our elders support, came up with dance drama and various things. So
Right.
I'll move.
And the other thing, Arun, what I want to mention from observations is also your work with the vernacular language.
Yeah.
In using, of course, their sensibilities, the sensibilities of the rural communities, but also language as something that is quite crucial in your communication and everything that you're developing, isn't it? So I think that is something so important to think of, because we are so oriented towards English
Yes.
all the time, and everything is in English. And when you come to this grassroots level,
Yeah.
I think that it is so crucial to be able to do this. So this is hugely inspiring.
And I would like to show just quickly some more. So, and as you are coming in here, the SARA Center has a few sections. You can see this one is, though it is still upcoming, it was just a trial run. This is about, history of civilizations and up to contemporary art and things. This is both in English and Kannada, which is very important. So like that, so we are doing various things. And also another section has another, like it is again designed for school children and public visits. This one is basically about about the education of the local ecology. about earth, water, soil, and forest, and agriculture. So though this section is also still in the making, so but this is just a small window. We have about 120 types of rice that has been cultivated at the center itself. So you see all these interesting, attractive elements. These things must attract people around. Even I had not really seen so many types of rice varieties. And likewise, we have many the bamboo types. Like we have about 40 types of bamboo things like that. So, Lena, may I go a little bit because I hope there is some time. I'll show the last part of this, our engagement, the
Yes,
SARA
please.
engagement.
Yeah.
So apart from this center, we also have, programs working within the villages. So we have chosen 4 villages in the name of, the Swagrama project. Swagrama is basically based on Gandhiji's village Swaraj idea. So this is basically the idea of Swagrama. It is, when we work in a villages, we don't like to see it from one angle or, one point agenda. So we need to see and study all, aspects of, community work. So we've studied all that, they where, art also comes in, and everything comes in. So we have done a survey, and so all that, and also using a locals art form, we are bringing together the village folks and reviving their own art forms. This is called Hase Chitra, and also have, while painting, they have music and singing. So, these are the things, and basically having, finding many opportunities to interact with the village folks, to gain confidence and build the trust that whatever we are doing in, and also understand their their issues. That is what we are trying to do. Whether creating water securities by desilting lakes and things. And once the lake is done, then the activity starts, like fisheries and things. There is a huge possibilities. And we when we work in villages and village communities, you can't you have to become one of them, and then understand, and then slowly build awareness. There is so much that we have to learn from them, and then also share ideas with them from other outer this thing. So, and we have other projects also, which I don't want to go much in detail now. So so this is also still in the making.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really incredible, Arun, and enormously inspiring. And I think that a lot of us want to definitely contribute in some way in the future. So, all the best to everything that you're doing at the SARA Center. To sort of wind up this conversation, I will just ask you very briefly to tell us about what you are working on right now. Are there any specific projects in the pipeline? And then we can go on to the questions and answers.
See, because of this pandemic and things were here and there, but my one major project is still at SARA. SARA is not complete. It is still, it needs a lot of content to invite, various stakeholders for maybe, young artists and researchers and everyone. So I have so much work there. That is one thing. Besides that, I do have a small shows coming up and things like that. That is, but Sara is my large work. That is, of course, with many people support, and it is a let's say collaborative work. But this idea is a growing idea. It, that work never stops there. It goes on. So one after another. Yeah. So
Thank you, Arun. I mean, this was really a beautiful presentation. And now I'm handing over to you, Parvati, so that we may go ahead with the queries that I could see coming in.
Thank you. Thank you, Leena. And thank you, Arun. That was such an amazing presentation. And, I think you have answered your own question as to whether your art connects with people. I think you have found a brilliant way of answering your own question. So let me just run some of the questions that have been posted by you. Two questions are from students. One says, says as a student and was wondering, how do young children and students respond to your work? I think that question sort of came up at the time when you were doing the more playful works with the toys, and I think your images show students interacting with your work. So what has that experience been, and what do you think you have learned from it?
yeah, that is a good question. So see, learning from children, there is so much, and still, while being at a toy industry, I had to become I had to be in a constant touch with children for their reactions and things. But anyway, that is one part of it. But other in the project or in my art, that's kind of, it's coming naturally. And in the project, Sara project, while my whole focus is for children. Even at Sara, my primary focus is to engage the younger generation and teachers, because they are the one needs to take over and maybe kind of repair the damage that we have done so far. So that is why they are important. But the elders, they've already done what they had to do, and I don't know how much the elders can still do. But amazing response from the children, because when they come to know that what is climate change and what is global warming and what is happening and all that, just by listening to the elders, that kind of time that we had, kind of rivers and water bodies that we had, kind of forest we had, kind of forest food, forest fruits that we had, all that, I know, I mean, it is just a matter of 30 years that is all gone. So when they get to hear this, they become really alert, and then they want to do things. And it was not about to scare them, but it is actually to alert them to to develop that habits right from now, to have that balanced approach of balanced development or balanced consumption and things like that. So that is children are when I work, I think of them, and then I strategize according to them. It is not really for the elders, but when you make things according to their taste and needs, obviously the others get it also. Yeah.
The second question is also from a student, but a PhD scholar this time, who is asking about the inspiration that makes you choose a new waste material to use or recycle. I think she's responding to the fact that, you've used bottle caps and wood and plastic. So she says, how do you make a shift in your choice? How do you decide that for your next artwork, you'll use a different kind of upcycle or trash material? So she just wants to know your thought processes between shifting between different kinds of waste material.
Yeah, basically there is no shift as as such, because we are encountered with so much of waste around, and how do you deal with it? That is the question, and then that's how you start thinking around that waste. So when it's just hitting you, you just go out of industrial suburbs, and you will see maybe probably now they're all covered, and you don't get to see maybe much, but that is all landing up in the wasteland, or far away places. And nowadays, because of all this communication medium, that we do get we do get encountered with this waste, becoming a huge problem for water bodies, marine life, and everywhere. So in having such a huge problem in front of us, and one cannot ignore, and one has to, it is just that, how you use it, how you make use it for your own thoughts.
So it's a more organic process that
Yes.
whatever strikes you, you decide to work with it.
Yeah, yes, of course. If you have an idea, and then obviously you look for right materials, and right, for to come up with a form, and then all that strategies, everybody goes through. So it is an organic process.
Well, the second one is both, the next question is both a comment and a question, which says, thank you for your very insightful conversation. And he wants to know whether the shift, in connecting with your roots, was it also a journey in self-discovery?
Yeah, of course, it is basically that. That's why, you're going back, you having, you start from one point and go to reach another point. That is, let's say, starting from my roots, and then reaching to metros, and experience all that that is happening there, and you connect, and then obviously what needs to be done, and so it is obviously rediscovering our own roots, and also how to deal with and what to do with it. If there are problems, how to deal with it, and how to address, especially when you're an artist, a visual artist, then the challenge is more, because as everybody knows what the contemporary art means, what it means to villages. It may not have any meaning for them. So you have to really strategize differently. The audience are different. So so it is, of course, it is reverse journey, that is exploration, re-exploring our own roots, and finding ways to deal with it.
And then the last question that we have for the moment, unless someone posts something else, is how do you fund something of the magnitude of the Eco Walk? It seems like a very large project involving a lot of artists, students, programs. How do you fund something like that?
See, that is very, very interesting part. When we, so the fund, we didn't have fund. That is where the discovery started, how do we do it? So we had a very minimum, it is mostly from my savings, let's say a minimum. That is, maybe one would spend on a large installation, maybe that I must say in terms of money. So then, you strategize, and, you just find how to do things without money. And that is the best way to do things, because the people find it, honest. If there is money, then, anyways, working in, in that areas, we have encountered so much of suspicion on us from, people doing such things, that, they must be getting fund from somewhere maybe, and all that. But they came to know, and it is all an honest effort. So it was all voluntary, and also let's say talking about the 6-day walk. We started from one point, and the preparation was on for the last 6 months, and we had contacted local governments and local organization to help us when we were walking for breakfast, lunch and dinner and stay and things like that. So so these kind of things were really worked very well, because they also participated very well. I mean, it was not that you have bag full of money and then you are organizing everything. Then the result would have been very different. We didn't have a bag full of money, and we didn't have any money. That was good. We experienced something very a different kind of experience. And even now, doing Swagrama kind of thing, we don't have any money, and we tell the villagers that we don't have money, and we are not bringing any money there. It is just that there is a money in the system, like local government system is there, and we are not doing something different. We are basically trying to use the existing system. So agriculture department are there, and all departments are there, and we just have to ask them for help and things like that. So that is how about we are running these programs.
There's just one more question from Priya Pal. She asks, she says, thank you for such an insightful talk. And very interestingly, with public art, what consideration do you give longevity? With the kind of materials how do you balance that out with a desire for longevity?
So thank you, Priya, for that question. I never see this longevity here, because it is not possible. And longevity can be worked out if there is you need to have space and more money, but the purpose is lost. When you put in more money and more resources, then the whole purpose is lost. But it has, I mean, such materials, they have their own life, and the artwork also has its own life. Like in Gurgaon, what we did was, it was actually for to have it for a year, and it lived there for a year, and then it was thought like that. So it was supposed to be removed later. So you have to think and strategize all of that.
Thank you, Arun. May I invite Ravi to ask a question, make some observations?
Thanks, Arun. That was really wonderful, especially with what we are going through today. The whole world is in turmoil. Everybody seems to be agitating. We have farmers. We don't know what the food industry is going to become. There is going to be strife over water, and the climate change debate, and there's a disease which is which we are having to deal with. Nobody thought about the COVID thing, and so what do you think is the future for artists? What is your work? Where is your work going right now? And what do you think will happen in the next year or two?
I mean, things. Thank you, Ravi. Things will take its own, course and time, and I think this is very important to work with the communities again. I mean, if we are artists, then use all that artistic experience and skills to work with the communities. That is going to help a lot, and also it is much more effective. That's what I have learned, because art brings people together. That's what I learned in my own experience. It is very difficult to work in a small place like that. Things are polarized and people are polarized, and so what brings you in is just that artistic element. People come for that, come together, and then in that you can really achieve something, I think. I mean, that is the purpose of art for me. I mean, that I see that light in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think we're running.
Yes, we're running a
Right.
little short of time. Yes. So, do you have any closing remarks you would like to make, Lena? Or
Well, I think that, to say again that Voices is something that has really brought us together in so many ways to be able to discuss our experiences and touch upon the wide variety of experiences that our entire local space or nation or the globe is facing. So I think that, having a conversation with someone like Arun is really sometimes like just the spur you need to really consider so many other things. So I just want to say thanks again to Voices and hashtag, and looking forward to more of these conversations in the future.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi and hashtag collectives for your wonderful work and opportunity for us to gather again and share ideas. I look forward to many more such dialogues. Thank you so much.
So,
And also, I thank the people who tuned in and spending an hour time listen to us. Thank you so much. Sorry.
yes. Well, many thanks to you both, Arun and Lena, for participating in Voices and sharing your thoughts on undefined spaces and working with environmental consciousness. I really feel, Arun, you were perhaps ahead of the curve because it is now in the pandemic that we sort of see, the need to have a slower way of to deal with the community, to merge together sort of one's workspace and one's life. And I think what you've done with Sarah and what you're continuing to do, taking the art out of a studio practice and into the community is certainly a very, very sustainable way forward for the arts. So thank you so much for bringing these ideas into the Voices spaces. I think we've all got a lot of ideas and things to think about when we leave. So from all of us at Voices, from Ravi, who continues to guide and inspire all of us, Namrata, Sarah, Abin, Biju, and myself, thanks go out to both of you, and yes, to each and every one of you in the audience for taking the time to join this exchange of ideas, for coming together to hear the artists' voices, and for working with us in taking little steps towards a sustainable arts environment. Voices will return with episode 5 in November. Do tune in. Until then, stay safe and keep the conversation going. Good night.